Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Kiln Restaking Rendez-Vous. I'm Edgar, protocol specialist at Kiln, and today we have the pleasure of welcoming Felix from ARPA Network to talk about the ARPA AVS. Felix, how are you doing today?
Great. Yeah, it's very my honor to be on the show, talking about ARPA Network and our recent launch of ARPA AVS with EigenLayer.
Yeah, very excited for this episode. To kick things off, maybe you could first introduce yourself and maybe give us the history of how you started working in the world of blockchain and crypto.
Sure. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Beijing, and then I went to New York for college at 17 years old. And during college, actually, I heard about Bitcoin for the very first time from one of our professors. He actually transferred to each of us, like in that seminar, a little bit of Bitcoin. But unfortunately, I lost the wallet, and it's long gone. But that was the first impression. And and then I was working in a hedge fund and also a fintech, venture capital for after college. And then that was when I was, introduced to Bitcoin, read a white paper, and decided to enter the industry. So I quit my job and started ARPA in early 2018. So it has been 6 years. It's been quite a journey. It's such a pleasure to work with you guys, Clean, and also EigenLayer, on the AVS, which I think is a great success. And also it actually makes a lot of business sense to integrate with EigenLayer to have more decentralized node network.
Yeah, we were definitely excited as well. One thing that struck my mind when I prepared for this meeting is that it seems that ARPA Network has been around for quite a long time. This is not your first cycle and probably not even your second. Could you talk a bit about the origin story of ARPA Network and how the project evolved with the years?
Mm-hmm. Sure. It has been quite a long time, 3 cycles to be exact. And we have always been looking for new use cases, and we actually pivoted, several times. So when we started in early 2018, me and my co-founders, who got, PhD degrees in cryptography from Tsinghua University, one of the top universities in China. The four of us, got together. We have, a business background, investment background, and also computer science and cryptography background. So we got together and think about, what can we achieve with cryptography, like multi-party computation. And at first, we wanted to do, privacy preserving data analysis, data analytics for companies, right? So that we can get the results from all these analyses without exposing any of the parties' raw data. But later on, we found, there's a lot of obstacles when we talk to enterprises. None of them trust the technology. None of them trust, a new type of cryptography, because back then multi-party computation was very few people know about it. So we switched to crypto, and then we try to get some new use cases using multi-party computation with blockchain, right? So that is how we entered into the crypto space. And we were at first exploring the general purpose multi-party computation, but turned out the communication overhead and also the computation overhead is way too heavy to be used with blockchain, right? And then actually in 2021, we switched to a more specific algorithms called threshold signature schemes, and then we use threshold BLS signatures to be better combined with the blockchain. And now, with threshold BLS network that ARPA network has, we can provide, random number generators. We can be the infrastructure for cross-chain bridges and a lot more use cases that we are, in development. So that is kind of a brief history of ARPA network. We are backed by some good investors like Binance Labs, Defiance Capital, Nomura, etc. We keep working on new use cases, and we keep trying to bring value to the blockchain ecosystem.
Great. And so you already started to dive a bit in the technicals. You mentioned threshold signature schemes, TSS and BLS. Can you talk a bit, try to explain to our audience how does these signature schemes differ from, let's say, like ECDSA signatures, and what can they enable for the Web3 space?
Of course. Yep. So there are, so basically, like, you can think about the threshold signature schemes as a way to basically to do the distributed key generation, right? So none of the parties hold a full key, like a full private key. So for a group of nodes together, they will like do the key share distribution. And then whenever they submit a partial signature, they need to reach like a threshold. For example, like 3 out of 5 or like 5 out of 10. So like that is like a threshold to be able to submit, like to combine the signatures and then submit to the blockchain, right? So that is kind of the overview of threshold signature schemes. And the reason why we chose threshold BLS over threshold ECDSA is that there are several characteristics for BLS signatures. For example, BLS signatures are easier to do the aggregation. You can combine, like thousands or like even more of like these partial BLS signatures together using very, fast computation. And the communication overhead is like very low as well. And also, like, to combine these BLS signatures deterministic, meaning that the threshold BLS signatures are not prone to abort attack or to like cherry pick, right? So that is how we build our first use case, like the random number generator called Rancast, because it can only be enabled by threshold BLS signatures. So there are, superior characteristics about BLS signatures over ECDSA. That's why, we chose BLS. However, the network itself can, support different types of signatures if you want, depending on the use case. Yeah, it's just like for our random number generator, we have to use BLS.
Gotcha. And you already talked about verifiable random number generator. Could you talk a bit about also like the different types of products that ARPA is building, and more specifically, like what types of use cases they serve?
Of course. It's always good to talk about the real use case, whatever the value that the end user or the projects that need from like an infrastructure project like us. So like, for example, like the random number generator product is called ARPA Randcast. We provide basically two values. One is a tamper-proof, verifiable random number generator. Randomness is very important. Like in computer science, there is no true randomness, because true randomness only exists in the nature, right? Like the noise in the atmosphere or the noise in the chips, the lava lamp, for example. However, like the reason why we do verifiable randomness is that we try to verify like the integrity of the algorithms, right? So basically, we can prove that algorithms are righteously executed. So that is the good part about VRF, verifiable randomness, and the good part of verifiable randomness generated by a threshold signature scheme compared to a VRF, verifiable random function, is that threshold signature schemes use a group of nodes instead of using just one node, and it removes the single point of failure. And because of the threshold, it's harder to collude and to cherry pick or to abort to get that randomness that a cheater wants, right? So it can be used in a lot of ways. For example, in lotteries, in let's say like community lotteries, gamblings, games. We actually make several experiments in fully on-chain game, which we think is a very interesting niche, right? So, if you talk about like blockchain consensus, how to choose a node, right, for the block reward, etc., you can also use verifiable randomness. So that is kind of the use case for verifiable randomness. And the other thing that we innovate and we try to work upon is the developer experience. For ARPA Randcast, we provide, a set of SDKs that, DApps can just integrate within a couple lines of codes, right? So it's very flexible. We actually build a lot of templates based on different use cases, from draw like a lottery to like roll a dice to more complex like algorithms, like sorting or other algorithms. So basically like it's very easy to integrate, it's cheap, and it's also tamper-proof and verifiable. That is ARPA Randcast. And we are also working on several other projects, on the application level that can leverage the ARPA network. For example, a cross-chain messaging protocol, and some other, efforts that we are exploring right now.
Great. And these all of these products, the one you mentioned, they were existing before the existence of EigenLayer. Can you talk a bit about, from a builder's perspective, your choice to move to an AVS?
Of course. So I would say like there are several aspects that I like about EigenLayer. So first of all is from the business perspective. When I first look at EigenLayer, as a DeFi OG who played around, all these DeFi protocols during 2019 and during 2020 DeFi summer, it's very hard to find kind of the real yield for ETH. And that was when I first looked at EigenLayer, I was like, wow, you can use your staked ETH to do more work and then to get more yield, right? Which is a really good business model. So that's why like I instantly got interested into it. I got interested into EigenLayer. And after that, as I dive deeper into, the shared security and all these technicality of it, I feel like, I talked to my co-founders, we have to integrate, right? We have to be part of this initiative and try to be, one of the first AVS that ever go live. And that is from a business perspective. And from a shared security perspective, it's very hard for a network, for like a infrastructure project like us to bootstrap to be really as decentralized as possible. In the past, we also whitelisted some renowned node providers like Imstone's RockX and several others. However, we always try to be more decentralized, try to onboard more renowned and respected, node service providers. And EigenLayer give us this chance. Basically, we can, reach out to more people, and then there are a lot of other new node providers that join on board, like you guys, right? And also like because we try to combine the MPC aspect of ARPA network with EigenLayer. So basically, instead of staking ARPA, now node providers can stake ETH. And maybe in the future, they can do dual staking and everything. So, it's good for us, it's good for the network, and it's good for our clients who are using our random number generator. And, in the future, we're going to have, new applications that's holding even more like security and even more TVL. So I think that is a huge step for us, to go more decentralized for ARPA network.
Gotcha. It makes a lot of sense. And would you say that if you were to restart your ARPA journey today, you would like create a network that would solely rely on EigenLayer and restake ETH? Or do you think you would still keep the ARPA network with ARPA as economic security?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a really good question, right? So like there are several projects that build exclusively on EigenLayer. For me, like I am more familiar with like our infrastructure, our architecture, which combined the ARPA network with EigenLayer, right? So I would probably go from that standpoint. I would say that the core for the ARPA network is the multi-party computation part, right? So like we adopt cryptography. So it's not like a purely economic incentives or economic security that we adopt. It's more the cryptography and the math that's behind it. I think like pure like shared security from the economic incentives is good. However, I think the ultimate goal is to still use cryptography or math, to really do the verifiable work. At least like that is my thoughts. Maybe like if, when I started, there's EigenLayer, maybe our architecture would be a little bit different. But it's a big issue. Yeah.
Gotcha. And talking about EigenLayer as this security marketplace, how do you feel like what do you feel your needs are in terms of economic security? And have you started to think a bit about like the different security that EigenLayer offers? There is shared security, attributed security, and even intersubjective security brought by the Eigen token. Have you already thought about like what you're going to purchase in this marketplace?
Yeah. I mean, like EigenLayer definitely has a lot of things that offers. Like I'm still exploring the ecosystem as well. However, like, yeah, I would, I'd say that for now, like share security from all these like node providers to build ARPA network into a more decentralized network is good for our current product, verifiable randomness, random number generator. And if we build more applications that hold more TVL, I think it's like super beneficial because it just like gives us more confidence, right? Gives our users, no matter if it's DApps or applications or end users, give us a lot of more confidence that this whole network is guaranteed by all these shared securities. And we will definitely adopt more. I would say like adopt more shared security from the marketplace depending on the use case, specific use cases.
Gotcha. And maybe kind of a random question, but do you feel like it could also be possible that ARPA as an AVS overpays for economic security, and that it could potentially like have some downside effect because like in a way for an AVS, the economic security that you can get on EigenLayer is kind of infinite because just for the sole reason that EigenLayer TVL and more broadly Ethereum staking market cap is so huge compared to any type of need that an AVS may have. What do you think there?
Well, it's actually a tricky thing, right? Like because right now there is no slashing on EigenLayer, so all these operators try to onboard as many AVS as possible. It's kind of like a test flight, right? But as EigenLayer matures, I think as a matter of time that we introduce the slashing mechanisms, and at that time it's more people will care more about the risk reward. The operators and the restakers will care about the risk reward, and it's actually very important to choose the AVS that operators participate in. I would say that this is a whole new effort that it's a whole new ecosystem that people are still exploring into it. For like the overpaying the share security, I think it really depends on like the use case, right? Like if you hold a lot of TVLs, if it's like very mission critical, holds a lot of money, then you definitely need more share securities. But the reason why like our first use case is to do the random number generator is that it doesn't hold that much money, right? So like for a network that is not decentralized enough, like our old ARPA network without the support from EigenLayer, that's kind of a use case that is suitable for a small scale use case. So like I think it all evolves, and we try to basically like generate fair revenue for the operators, and I think we'll probably cover that in the later part. But then like we design these tasks, and then so the operators can participate and get rewards. So that's that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and also I wanted to take the time to congratulate you because you guys just released the ARPA AVS on EigenLayer mainnet, and I think that was last week, if I'm not mistaken. So congrats on that. And yeah, I would love to understand, like in the context of EigenLayer and maybe ARPA more broadly, what's next on your roadmap? Like what type of actions are you going to switch to? What type of work are you going to ask from the EigenLayer operator in the future? And can you talk a bit about your roadmap for new product integrations, or maybe updates on like business development wise on people using the random number generator, things like that?
Yeah, of course. Right. So like we view that the EigenLayer is a great bootstrap on the supply side, right? So like, it's kind of like a marketplace. So like ARPA Network is also a marketplace, right? So like we have the suppliers, which are the operators, the nodes, and that can be as decentralized as possible, made possible by EigenLayer. And on the other side is the demand, right? The demand comes from our products, like ARPA Randcast, the random number generators. Right now, there are more than a dozen of games, fully on-chain games, lotteries, etc. Like all these DApps are requesting random numbers, mostly on layer 2s, right? So currently, we kind of request operators to integrate with several layer 2s that we have live Rancast service on it, like Base, Optimism, Redstone, etc. Right? So I think on that part, we will definitely go out and market, kind of advertise that right now ARPA Network is more decentralized. The Rancast is even harder to to manipulate. That is one, and the other one is we are exploring the fully on-chain game, which is a small niche, but we built this interesting tug of war fully on-chain game called Dear, DEAR. And it actually has been a great success. We had more than 3,000 players on Redstone. It's a finite game, only lasts for 2 weeks for season 1. Right now it's on Base, which is our season 2, and the stats is really good. So like we try to get some traction in the fully on-chain game side, so that more fully on-chain game will integrate ARPA Randcast, for the randomness. So that is on the application side. And we have a team that's building a cross-chain messaging protocol. And for that one, that will definitely hold more TBL and require more shared security from EigenLayer. So I'm really optimistic and really confident, bullish on that part. That is something we always wanted to do, but in the past, we were a little concerned because our network is not decentralized enough. So that is kind of the roadmaps that we have on the demand side. As the market evolves, we'll definitely explore into other use cases as well.
Great. And my question is then, like, how does this demand translates into revenue and incentives for the restakers and the operators like Kiln to support the ARPA network?
Definitely, yeah. So as of right now, there are 2 parts of rewards, right? So the first part is the actual computation, right? Submission of partial signatures, participation in the group rotation, participation as the as the coordinator to put all these verifications on chain, right? So there are several. There's like a set of tasks, depending on if it costs high gas fee, and also depends on like the computation difficulties of the task. So we design different reward for some, let's say like submitting a partial signature, which is the lightest, or being a coordinator to combine the signatures and put it on chain, which involves gas fee. And for all these like gas fee heavy tasks, we actually refund the gas fee to operators, including setting up the nodes, participation in the group rotation, etc. Right? So we refund the fees. And on top of that, we will also give out ARPA token as a reward for these computation tasks. However, these computation tasks depends on the demand, like how many requests of random numbers, and also how many requests from like cross-chain transactions, right? So it really depends on like the robustness and also the demand of the network. That is the first part. And the second part is we are still designing the reward mechanisms for operators so that, as long as they participate and as long as they, do the work, basically like keep a high uptime, then we'll give out some ARPA token periodically. Yes. So we are still designing the second part. And, maybe in the future, if we adopt like dual staking mechanisms, the reward will be also different from that category. Yeah, so we'll see.
So there might be a future where like I don't necessarily have to pay in ARPA for the ARPA network task, but I could potentially pay in ETH or USDC.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like as of right now, it's all paid in ARPA, and in the future, we definitely accept more payment methods for sure.
Great. Okay, great. We talked a bit about the incentives. Let's go a bit towards the costs and also like the risks for the risk takers. Can you talk a bit about like the way that you have designed the AVS? What are operators actually running in the backend, and how are they being basically like prevented from not acting nefariously for the ARPA network? Have you already thought about the type of slashing constraints you're going to put on operators?
Mm-hmm. Right. So when we designed ARPA network before EigenLayer, we put a lot of thoughts into, security deposits, slashing, etc. Right. So like the whole purpose is to foster, this like very hard to tamper threshold signature scheme group, right? So like depending on how many nodes are there in the same group, and how long should we rotate the groups so that not the like majority of the nodes will collude in the same group. So that's how we have a lot of designs and mechanisms in place to prevent colluding. And uptime is also another factor. So like we don't want to have failed requests from the DApps, right? So like so basically like in the backend, the nodes are running the multi-party computation, more specifically like threshold BLS signature schemes. And then so they do the DKG process, distributed key generation process, which not all the time, like not doing all the time, right? So it's like once per period of time. And after that, they, per request, they will submit partial signatures. And there's a coordinator. There are several computation nodes. The coordinator will combine the signatures and then put it on chain, right? So the cost associated to that is the gas fee for the coordinator. And for these computation nodes, it's more just the computation of the partial signatures.
Makes sense. And last questions on operators. You clearly clarified the importance of decentralizing all of these operations and try to be like as efficient as possible when it comes to uptime. Do you have a target of how big of a set of operators you want to welcome to ARPA network and to the AVS? Or do you think that you'll be able to achieve like better efficiency in terms of network uptime if you have like a smaller number of operators?
Mm-hmm. Right. It also depends on like the demand, right? So like let's say, because it's not like all the operators are in the same group. We rotate the groups, and we have 5 or 10 nodes in one group, right? So if we have a lot of demands, then we need to have more groups so that we can fulfill these like requests in parallel. For now, like our target is to have at least like 50 nodes. Some of them, they're already supporting the ARPA native nodes, some of them coming from EigenLayer operators, right? So as of right now, I think there are more than 25 operators getting onboarded. I think there are several already live, and most of them are, doing the onboarding, going through the onboarding docs, and we'll see. We expect them to go live within the next weeks.
Great. You mentioned earlier that you are very interested in EigenLayer even before deciding to build an AVS on top of this restaking hub. Can you talk a bit about like your long-term vision for restaking? Like, what do you think that restaking actually enables for the crypto space, and how do you think it will shape the ecosystem? And looking in, like, let's say like 5 years, like one crypto cycle, what will have changed in the space that would not have changed if restaking was not there?
Yeah. Okay. So also I would start with like the business perspective, right? I came from like a business or a finance background. I studied finance and information systems at New York University, best known for their business school, right? So, like Wall Street recently, like SEC approved the ETF for Ethereum, right? The main difference for Ethereum versus Bitcoin is that Ethereum has yield, right? Staking yield. On top of that is the restaking yield coming from the AVS or some other incentives, right? So Wall Street loves that. Wall Street loves real yield. And I think that will like eventually drive a lot of inflow from ETF or from TradFi or from like boomers, right, into Ethereum compared to even Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more like a gold, right? It's not generating cash flow. But if you can do a DCF on Ethereum plus the burn, then I think Wall Street will go crazy on it. It's maybe can be quite a strong driver to flip Bitcoin, the Ethereum to flip Bitcoin because of that, right? So that was when I first looked at EigenLayer, I was like, wow, it's amazing. Yeah, that was around 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so like right now the ETFs are getting approved. Unfortunately, they are not staked. So I think eventually we'll see some staked ETF because it makes sense. It's the risk-free yield of the platform. But you would be predicting restaked ETF?
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, like today, like SEC dropped all the investigation into ETH 2.0, right? So, which means like maybe in the future we'll see like the staked ETH ETF. And just a matter of time that people ask for, more yield. And if EigenLayer becomes, strong enough and then battle tested, time tested, no slashing whatsoever, then I think I can definitely see a restaked ETH ETF being approved and then being traded, which offers at least like 5% more yield than staked ETH, which is like super attractive to a lot of these, traditional institutional investors.
Yeah, very interesting and definitely true. I mean, this is definitely like what will attract Wall Street to Ethereum in the long term. And you mentioned that this could be potentially a driver for ETH to flip Bitcoin. And you don't see it clearly, but I'm wearing a half Bitcoin hat. So I need to defend my horse a little bit here, and talk a bit about like products and protocols that are building sort of restaking, or they call it Bitcoin staking, basically like rehypothecating Bitcoin economic security to pretty much build EigenLayer competitors. And one of them is Babylon, for example. So what do you think about the competition there in the restaking space, about not using ETH as economic security, but using Bitcoin or other assets?
I mean, I've heard of Babylon. However, I'm not too familiar about their tech. I'm not sure if you can build complex smart contract or like anything similar compared to Ethereum on top of Bitcoin. So I'm not too sure. I'm not familiar. I don't know. It seems to be like a plausible theory that you can also do the share security for Bitcoin, which is even more decentralized. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm just not sure.
No worries. And maybe you've heard about the competitors of EigenLayer on Ethereum. We've seen recently the announcement of some raises and some big names joining the restaking race. And I think in a way it's interesting because it brings us back to like the origin of restaking. In a way, EigenLayer was the first one to execute on restaking on Ethereum, but the idea of restaking and rehypothecating economic security dates back to concepts of like the Cosmos Hub and the Polkadot parachains. Now, when it comes to Ethereum, we've seen, like I said, newcomers to this race like Symbiotic, Karak, and Nectar. Have you had the time to look at like the different trade-offs that these restaking hubs were proposing, and how do you feel like this will impact the AVS space?
Mm-hmm. It's always good to see more competition. I think it's, especially for like a fast innovating space like crypto. I think the more competition, the better, right? So our developers spend a little time to look at Symbiotic, and I think like their slashing mechanisms is interesting. Like we'll definitely keep an eye on it. I think it's like the design space is huge, like in shared security space. So yeah, like but then like I think EigenLayer is still the leader in terms of the docs and the like everything, everything that's like kind of the infrastructure. I think it's definitely has like some lead time of the competition. For Symbiotic, I think they are still pretty early. Like I think like for the code base is not too much to look at yet. Yeah, but we will definitely keep an eye on it.
Gotcha. Well, Felix, this was a really interesting conversation. I had a great time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can we send the audience to learn more about ARPA Network and maybe give you a follow on Twitter?
Sure. Yes. So our Twitter handle is ARPA Official, ARPA Official. And my Twitter handle is Felix, FELIX MXU. That is my Twitter handle. And also check out our website and check out our docs at arpanetwork.io.
Great. Well, Felix, thank you so much again. And to the audience, I'll see you on the next one.